Meditation Cypher podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lyrical Meditation Cypher podcast. I am Tony Blackman, one of your hosts.
And I am Alexandra, your other host. This podcast was created because we each believe that hip hop is in alignment, or it can be, with wellness, healing, and transformation.
That's right. And here in this cypher, we explore universal themes and topics related to personal growth and development. Each episode begins with meditation and prayer. Then we have a cypher, followed by a conversation on the theme of that week.
And this week's topic is a good one. It's redefining success. What does success mean for ourselves?
And I'm excited about it because we have a very successful person as a special guest here today. He's mad humble, which makes him even more adorable, but he's brilliant. Daniel he's an award-winning lyricist, and he's a composer whose credits will have your mouth wide open. But he's the co-author of the New York Times bestselling book, The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. And here's my favorite thing about Daniel. He's a 2-time finalist for the NYC Hip Hop Karaoke Championship. What? So we might ask him to spit his favorite verse.
Okay.
And he runs the world's only mental chiropractic service, Take a Walk with Daniel. And it's a beautiful concept. And I know something our coach in residence, Takia, is going to geek out on. But originally from Vancouver, Canada, Daniel now lives in the Republic of Brooklyn. And so we're really welcome, Daniel. We're really excited to have you here with us.
The feeling is more than mutual. I'm so honored to be with all of you. It's great.
But before we get started, we're going to begin this episode with a little meditation led by our coach in residence, Takia.
Let's close our eyes or bring them to a gentle gaze if that suits you. And let your feet just be light and connected to the floor. And let your breathing find a natural rhythm. Give your attention to it. And allow your body just to start to relax. From the tip of your head, as this sense of ease starts to move like a wave, down through your nose, your mouth, your jaw, your neck. Allow your shoulders to just fall away from your ears as you settle more deeply into the center of you. In this space, we are free of labels. We are free of definition. We just are. In this space, we are free to create and recreate ourselves again and again and again. As this wave of ease just ripples gently from the tip of your head down into your chest, down into your hips, down into your legs, into the connection through your feet. Lean.
We give thanks to the divine creator in this moment for this time of meeting in the Lyrical Meditation Cypher. As we reflect on the principles of success, we give thanks for the successes that we have had that are personal, that are spiritual, that are physical. And we also give thanks for the successes that we will have, no matter how we define them. We give thanks for the success of being alive on today, being able to give this message. And we also give thanks for all those who will receive this message. May our words be divine, may our words be truthful, and may we be purposeful. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. 1 in 7 billion. The probability 1 in 400 trillion. Our existence is anomaly in rhythm, already perfect, yet we make success the mission. So much competition, ingrained duality that's written in the system. We have a voice, but we ask others for permission, as if our worth were defined by their opinion. Trust the intuition, giggly fun we had as children, less addiction to the friction of somebody else's vision. Atoms in the cosmic kitchen, yet every day we bitchin', getting high on dopamine and fancy mental prisons. Impressive but depressed. It's hard to be the best. Embracing emptiness, I'm thinking maybe more is less, because presence is the essence of a life well lived. Expressions, not obsessions, like that's all there is.
Heart, spirit, mind aligned. I walk a fine divine line. Miracles ain't hard to find. Success is purpose, redefine. Flow shows up characteristically in moments of authenticity. When flow slows up, my presence decidedly takes precedence. Throwing worry in the backseat. No need for evidence to walk faithfully. Positivity just seems to follow me. Guess I'm attractive energetically. Miraculous it must be. Can't be tracking me by Prince Ali. Because God carries thee. It's all purple rain and red Corvettes I see. Success is synchronicity. Success reflected back to me. No mirror holds the size of me. I'm mightier than the sea. When spirit rises up in me, I shift planetarily. It may seem suddenly like light years to a galaxy. Truth is, it's subtly. Whispers in the silence, magnified utterly. Spiritual sirens, the impact be seismically. I feel the ish had defeat. I mean to show exactly what I reap. Hand to God cuts ahead of defeat, leaving behind a tale of a life lived legendarily. I am victory, legendarily.
I step inside the cipher like the fifer on a quest. I'm a lifer, that's my sentence, plus I'm wicked, so no rest. Keep shit impromptu, ad lib, and ad hoc. Give you shit to stomp to, so what you want, like ad rock? My assignment is refinement in the name of alignment. We all have our wounds. I'm here to find out what mine meant. A grab bag of grievance or a treasure trove of lessons or a winding trail of breadcrumbs leading me back to my essence. No gingerbread house calls. I'm sticking to the path. And when things don't add up, I don't get mad at the math. I'm on the fast track to mastery, full credit to catastrophe. God's the quarterback whose orders are to pass my fucking ass to me. So I switch up the game. Instead of trying to live disaster-free, I place my future in the now, and it decides just what my past will be. A pile of coulda, shouldas, or a tragic tale of woe, or an absolutely mandatory thing to make me grow. When life says, hell no, I'm out here digging for the yes. Bear hug every failure. That's the secret of my success. So call me Michael J, because you'll never outfox me. From here to Chicago, display more heart than Roxy. See past all that jazz and later for the razzle-dazzle. Comparing self to others, man, that's faultier than Basil. I'll reduce it like balsamic, boil it down to the essential. The best metric of making it is always self-referential. How much of my potential am I potentiating? How weighted down am I by the heavy freight of waiting? The people that surround me, do they ground me? Am I sleeping soundly? What's being forged in my creative foundry? Where's the boundary between what I crave and what I long for? How many cluster fuck-ups do I still make myself wrong for? Can I celebrate the small stuff and promote my own progression? Or do I assess success like the psychos on Succession? I'm not Kendall nor a Ken doll, so Barbie, keep it moving. My game is self-revealing, had enough of self-improving. Like these boots, I'm made for walking, like the roots I shall proceed, and my heart is in cahoots with everything I truly need. So heed what I've decreed as I reach my final thought. Fuck a fancy degree. Success is self-taught.
Yes.
I'm unleashing my power like Sunny D, solar plexus. Cashing in my karma, I might go and buy a Lexus. Went from prepaid, broke days, my card in Nexus to going platinum black cards. Haters ain't expect this. Take my talents on the road from Philly down to Texas. Got a mouthful of gold, nappy hair, that's some blackish. I earn my money earnestly. Let me go and stash this. Got my silver, gold, and copper since we going cashless. I'm real. I am courageous. Energy contagious. Aim for biggest stages. Stop my triggers. No PlayStation. I'm strategic while they playing. Praying and breathing while they hating. I'm done hesitating. Press play no more belaboring. Got my wisdom and momentum. Get the tornado and run. Sipping on success, release the power of the sun. Radiating my greatness, no manipulation. First I saw it in my mind. I already won.
In the world that's moving fast, we chase success. but it's time to redefine it. So let me address it. Just ain't about the money and the fame and wealth. True success lies in your insides, in the health. No more measuring worth by what we possess. Let's focus on the love, the kindness we express. It's not the numbers on the screen by what you're defined. It's the impact we leave. The legacy is a sign. Redefine success, break the old mold. It's about the journey, not just reaching the goal. Find your purpose, let your heart lead the way. True success is living inspired every day. What? Let's shift the focus, let's shift the paradigm. Success ain't a destination, it's the climb. Learn from failures, embrace the fall, stand tall. We rise, we breaking through the wall, redefining success. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
So that's the cipher. Welcome to the cipher, Daniel Maté. What?
Oh my God. Crew. What crew? I am honored as it gets to be in the room with these people. That was incredible.
So yeah, so what we do is we cipher and then we have a conversation. And so we talk about the concepts, these themes, these ideas. And this success thing has been coming up for me a lot. But I think the best way for us to start is just getting a sense of definitions. Anybody want to throw out what's your definition for success? Like, what is it? What does success mean to you personally?
Well, I think success for me it depends on what aspect of my life we're talking about, because I can feel successful emotionally when I'm able to respond versus be reactive. I feel successful in my life in general when I'm on purpose. And as I was saying in my rhyme, like when I sense this sense of alignment with my purpose, it's just in a kind of intrinsic knowing I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, and I'm taking action that's in alignment with that. I feel successful, and that changes, right? As my action and moves in the world change, and I allow myself to redefine it each and every time.
I'm very much so in the same realm of Takia in terms of defining success with inner alignment, with our purpose, and being able to live out my destiny, being able to live fully in who I am, no matter where I am at, and not feeling that I need to take away from myself in order to be in a new space or in order to reach a certain goal. And I think about those baby steps that we take towards the bigger goal, those also being successful as well.
Yeah. My personal definition of success is how much joy can I possibly feel from doing the thing that I love the most frequently. And that's definitely changed over time. But when I feel that aliveness, that joy from being in that flow state of doing exactly what I love, which is freestyling, performing, I feel successful.
Yeah, I mean, I have to cop to it that I have not entirely. I'm sure none of us have. How would I put it? Overcome or relegated to the pile of obsolescence my old definitions of success. I still compare myself to others all the time. It's just default, and I have these ideas in my head, these mile markers, and it says if I got there, like, an off-Broadway production of my show. I don't even need a Broadway production, just an off-Broadway production. But I know from watching friends of mine who have had the kinds of success that I want, that you get to that place and then that it just takes a new form, that craving of that thing you think is going to complete you.
Yeah.
So when I try to redefine success for myself, I mean, number one, recognizing that just because something failed to happen doesn't mean I'm a failure. But not trying to sweet talk myself into saying, oh, that really went well. No, maybe it didn't go well. Maybe I didn't actually achieve my aim. And it's important to be able to acknowledge that. Any pro athlete needs to be able to say, you know what, damn it, I lost that tennis match, or that, or we, the team, lost this game and we're playing a game to win. But that doesn't mean we're failures. And that's often been a pitfall for me too, is mistaking the way things go with who I am in the matter. And when it comes to redefining success, I try to claim the successes that are already there, first of all. before I start striving for something else. I mean, there are successes if you just take a look. I think someone said, responding instead of reacting. Anytime I can notice that I've come back to the same stimulus, but I had a different response, I'm like, wow, that's freedom. That's success.
That's real. And I think that puts me in that whole lane of gratitude, like really taking inventory on what successes already exist, on what I already have. And I know for me as an overachiever, who has often defeated, I had a habit of defeating myself before the success. So I had a number of almost in my career. This close to the point where there are friends in the business who stopped speaking to me, who treated me like a failure, like a loser, because I failed. And then I internalized it. And what it really came back to after a lot of spiritual work was me recognizing my own value and not comparing myself to others. And because I failed doesn't mean I'm a failure. I love that quote. I love that quote. Yeah. And it's been very powerful to stand in that space.
You know, what's really been helpful for me is a lot of times, I would set these kind of goals for these accolades or this physical experience that I would have, when it's really this internal feeling that we're all chasing that we want. It's either to feel significant or we want to feel joy, or, there's a feeling we're trying to attain by doing the thing. And so if we focus on the feeling that we're looking to achieve, I find that it really helps me to be able to, one, see how I have that now and all the places that I can garner that now. And then ask myself, is that the thing that I really need to do in order to feel that way? Because sometimes it's you make these connections between what's successful based on what other people have done who are in your lane, when the thing that you're seeking to feel doesn't necessarily need to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you saying that. I think what it boils down to is character. And I think that is a more intrinsic and more spiritual definition of success that these days I feel like I'm moving more into. And I'm curious, Daniel, to know more, because I see that you do a lot of musicals and things like that. And you talked about this almost getting off Broadway or getting to Broadway, and then also your background in psychology. So how has this climb and your own creations redetermined how you look at success for, say, your musicals in general?
Well, thanks for asking. The psychology degree was something I did 25 years ago for undergrad at McGill, and I basically dropped out of it and I left it behind. It's funny that I've come around to co-writing books with my father about psychological issues, and that I do this thing called mental chiropractic, which is clearly psychological in nature, but I'm not a therapist, and I invented that. I made it up based on what's aligned for me, what I love to do with people, because I do like being an artist and expressing myself, but you got to get out of your own head sometimes and contribute. And that's one way that I do. Part of what's helped me in redefining success, like I said in my little verse there, is just, a curriculum of catastrophe, or a curriculum of getting everything I want, and then just seeing what the actual consequences of that are when I'm not coming from a place of alignment. If I think that award that I won is going to, or that, this relationship that I'm in, if I've met the right person, currently not in one, but there's been many times where I'm like, I've arrived. Like when I got married, I told myself that this was a kind of success that had eluded me and all my, married friends. Finally, I was joining their ranks. But I think for me, the difference is, am I letting my success ride on the attainment of a goal or the fulfillment of an intention? Because a goal is external. A goal is that production I want, or that gig someone wants, or getting married by a certain age, or having kids. That's like a concrete goal. And either those things happen or they don't. And it's nice when they do. But an intention has more to do with what Takia was talking about, which is the internal experience of it. Actually, several of you talked about it. Like I went on a date a few weeks ago, like a first date. And I set an intention beforehand as I was walking there, just knowing how I can get in these kinds of situations, to stay connected to myself the entire time. Even as I'm over there with her, even as I'm asking questions, maybe we'll be flirting, maybe there'll be some chemistry. Through all of that, my intention was, I want to stay present to my experience. And at the end of the day, no matter how it went, if I could do that, it was going to be a success for me. And especially when that's been difficult for me to do in the past. So like when I do my mental chiropractic work with people, I take walks with people and help them get unstuck in their life. The first thing we do is set an intention, but the intention is not some goal. Like I don't let people say, well, my intention for this walk is to figure out an action plan or to forgive my father or whatever. I tell them either that'll happen or it won't. What's the intention of this walk? And that would be something like, my intention for this walk is freedom or power or self-expression or maybe forgiveness. But that we can't dictate the form that'll take. We can just only put our attention on what we're saying matters to us. And when our experience and our behavior and our actions and our thoughts and our emotions line up with that intention, and we can keep it in the forefront of our awareness, then I think that's the successful feeling, that feeling of flow.
If you could take a walk on one of your mental chiropractics with a younger version of you, a young Daniel, what would you tell young Daniel that you wish you'd heard about success specifically, maybe in different phases of your life and your career and your journey?
Yeah, well, it would depend which version of Daniel, which era, because 40-year-old Daniel was different, dealing with very different things than 25 or 12-year-old Daniel. But I think I would tell him, you actually don't need to worry about the worldly successes. Like, you're going to have your share. I'm not going to give away what it's going to look like, it's like, don't mess with the space-time continuum. You don't go back in time until it's like the Back to the Future principle. But I would say that you can relax on that front. And I would say that given what you're carrying, it's probably inevitable that you're going to go through some painful, disillusioning experiences. I wish I could fast track that for you. I wish I could, but actually I don't, because that's what you require. And just know that at no point in that process does anything mean that you've failed or that you're a failure. It's going to be for your refinement, and it's going to ultimately be for you being released of things that don't serve you and moving closer towards living a life that's profoundly aligned with what you're here for. And it's going to be hard sometimes.
So knowing this, I'm curious to know, how you used this kind of depth of knowingness that you have now and desire to be in alignment and intention in your creative process.
Well, I mean, it's been a while since I started a musical from scratch. So it's hard to remember what that moment, that blank canvas moment, or, we sit down with the pen and I feel like there's some classic rap verse about how the pen, all right, inviting me to rhyme, Rakim, right? Yeah. But I always have a sense of, but when I start a project, I usually have a sense of what this show is about for me and what I want people to come away with. And that can morph and evolve over the course of it. And a lot of that for me has to do with psychological insight into how human beings are, and witnessing people at their best or at their worst or somewhere in between, and exploring how human beings deal with this thing we call life, especially in moments of great strain or adversity. And then I just try to get interested in where each character maps onto that. It's always harder when there's no underlying story, when it's like, I'm not working from any existing, I hate the term, but IP,
Right.
When you're coming up with a story on your own, it's dramaturgically very challenging. But whether the characters are invented by me or whether they're coming from a novel or a story or something like that, I just try to get super curious and then start thinking about, well, what are those moments that are going to reveal the most? And what needs to be revealed at what time for the audience to be brought along on this journey? I mean, there's so much that goes into writing musicals, but I think I'm always looking for, one of the nicest things anyone ever said about my stuff was a former professor of mine, Bill Finn, who is a musical theater composer, won a Tony, I don't know, 40 years ago, for a show called Falsettos. And he said that, I make choices, bold choices in my lyrics that are always surprising yet feel inevitable. And that's what I'm always shooting for. I want it to be like,
Love that.
At the same time, kind of a gasp of like, I didn't see that coming, and it fits right into what I was. It just fits,
So I'm wondering, have you ever had something you failed at where you had to forgive yourself for failing? Like, what's the process for you?
Well, I would say my marriage is the biggest thing I've ever failed at.
Okay.
Just from the sort of the raw perspective of, my plan was to be with this person for the rest of my life. And from wedding day to separation day was 2 years exactly to the day.
Mm.
And that's, I hope, a very small fraction of the rest of my life. So it didn't happen the way I planned, and it didn't happen the way we vowed to each other. And when you give your word to something, and then it fails to come, that's significant. It's not a casual thing that I made that promise and that she made that promise and that we, and I won't, there's a part of me that could get into, well, why did it not work out?
Right.
And sometimes I blame myself and sometimes I go the other way. But either way, it failed to happen the way I said it was going to. And what's the process of forgiving myself? Well, the best word I can come up with for that process, if I had to give it one word, is grief.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that Shakespeare quote, the quality of mercy is not strained. And forgiveness can't be forced, imposed. I mean, you can know that you should, and you can read all the Course in Miracles or whatever else in the world that can, or meditate or whatever it is that'll promote that spirit in you. You can be willing to forgive, but you can't will it. And I think that grief is the conveyor belt that takes us from the way it should have been to the way it is. From the mindset of, this is wrong, this was not supposed to happen, which is a very understandable story to tell oneself under many, many circumstances. In fact, it's probably the only one that most human beings would be able to muster for a while, But once I can get to the point where I feel all the things there are to feel, because usually when something like that falls apart, there were things I wasn't feeling all along, or, signs I wasn't noticing, things I wasn't letting myself admit. And then I have to feel, in the case of my marriage, I had to feel embarrassment. Like I was really embarrassed by how fully I'd thrown myself into it and how, I'd either been played or played myself. Again, those are just two ways of looking at it. There's infinite ways of looking at it, right? Which is why I said in my rhyme that, letting what I'm committed to decide what my past means, But once I've felt all that and the sadness and the anger and all of that, that's part of the grieving process, I can admit, you know what? That really hurts. I really loved that future I was wanting to live into. It didn't go that way. I can start to ask, what is this for? And at a certain point, there's nothing to forgive because it went the way it went. And from this vantage point, I can see how it had to happen that way. And what a crash course I got. What a fast track I got to so many lessons that I couldn't have learned otherwise because I was too attached to some illusions. So that's the only process I know there's no bypass for grief.
That's really beautiful. I've definitely am in an alignment in that I realize that understanding is ultimately the highest form of completion, right? And I'm wondering, has that very profound experience changed how you define relationship?
It's made a huge contribution to me wanting to redefine how I relate to relationship. I think I had to get my heart broken one more time by someone that I didn't marry, someone that I was barely even with. This happened last year. And we were together for such a short time, and it was so obvious from the start that she wasn't actually available. But that actually made me want her all the more. And what that showed me when I cross-reference it with my marriage is, wow, I've got some messed up templates for what intimacy means. I've got some messed up templates for what arousal is. I get turned on by having to work way too hard. And by feeling devalued or punished or made wrong or whatever else. That is an old traumatic wound. I didn't decide to be that way. And that's not what I would want for anyone who I love. So then it's a question of, okay, it's like the Joni Mitchell principle. I've looked at love from both sides now. I really don't know love at all. Let me start. What if I started from the premise that I don't know shit about shit?
Right.
How would I relearn this? What would I want it to be like? What new? And then from there, what new skills would need to be built on my part? What new taste buds do I need to develop in order to actually seek and enjoy the thing that'll actually feed me? Because when you're an addict, you crave the things that'll give you a short-term hit of something, so you have to actually relearn the pleasure principle.
That's so real. And it applies to so much of our whole life. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yes, I was going to say, as a young artist, I think that there's a lot of we crave that quick validation. And as you talk about stripping yourself of what you thought things were in terms of satisfaction and success, what are 3 things that you would say to a young artist that they should focus on?
3 things, eh? Well, let me see. I would say your craft matters a lot. Sharpen your sword. Like learn what are the tools of your trade? What allows, because talent is one thing, but having your talent be available to you and be flexible and just being there for you. You need to develop a relationship with your craft. So practice for sure. I would say that collaboration is key in probably every artistic form, even the kind of seemingly solo ones. Eventually you're going to need to collaborate with people. And there may be ego lessons to learn in that. I've certainly had to, put my ego through its paces in working with others. And you asked for 3, and that was 2. What else would I say?
It's okay.
Well, I would say, what's the next success for you? And maybe name one thing that's external that could happen, in the world. You could something you could get in the material realm, and also name something that isn't contingent on other people's agreement or approval. And just keep your eyes on both prizes, and also note what happens when you succeed. How long does that feeling last? Like, get to know the temporariness of the feeling of completion that comes from making it or getting what you want. And then also I would say even your negative emotions like envy and resentment and bitterness, all of them I have, the so-called negative emotions. let them point you towards something that is aligned. If that's not how you want to live your life, well, envy just says, wow, I want some of that for myself. I really do. And it hurts not to have it. Okay, let me feel that ache. How can I honor that today?
That's powerful. That is powerful.
Best I could do on the spot.
That's like a mini workshop for haters.
100%.
You need to put that on TikTok. I love that, Daniel. I love the conversation. I love the conversation. And I love that you were able to come into the Cypher and be a part of the Cypher. And I believe, y'all, Daniel has inspired like what our future guests are going to be required to do. Yes, Daniel, you raised the bar of this vision that was in our minds. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think what I want to ask you is something basic, like as a hip hop head to hip hop head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to do the whole verse, but your favorite bars, like, you know, everybody has like a favorite 4 to 6 or 8 bars. I think a brain like yours, you probably know the whole verse. I do.
I'm pretty encyclopedic with the shit. Well, I guess I've got 2 competing ones. One would be Paz's opening verse from De La Soul's Stakes is High. I actually ran into him at the Las Vegas airport a few months ago. Got a selfie with him. It's like one of my favorite episodes. But I'm gonna go with something by Inspector Deck from the mighty Wu-Tang Clan.
I got
my Ghostface shirt on. And most people would cite his verse from Triumph, you know, I bomb atomically, Socrates' philosophies, etc. But mine is from more of a deep cut off Raekwon's album, Only Built for Cuban Links.
Okay.
And the song is called Guillotine. And he kicks it off as he does with so many of their posse cuts, just because I think he's one of the most underrated MCs of all time. And it goes, poisonous paragraph, smash the phonograph in half. It be the Inspector Deck on the warpath. First class, leaving mics in a cast, causing ruckus like the aftermath when guns blast. Run fast, here comes the verbal assaulter. Rhymes running wild like a child in a walker. A storm from the, that's all I've got. But, you know, just his syncopation and cadences and internal rhymes.
Yeah.
And his braggadocio is completely backed up by,
by his genius.
He is always showing and proving without a lot of bluster, but he's just undeniable. So yeah, I would say that.
And I love the way you explain that, because I've been doing this work with hip hop for so long, and I still have to justify why it's an art to some people. And when you speak about it, it's crystal clear. This is a craft. It's, you know, rapping is a craft. And I think that's beautiful. Can you give us one more thing before we close? Do you have a favorite mantra or favorite affirmation or something that you say to yourself or had to say to yourself in the past that you can share with us?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't do affirmations so much.
Is there something you say to yourself? What does your self-talk consist of? Oh, wait. Oh, is that dirty? Is that a dirty question?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. Most of my self-talk is, what are you doing, man? But yeah, that's a tough question for me. The nicest thing I can say to myself is, I've got you. That's what I need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to hear. I don't need to hear, we're going to win, we're going to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, because there's parts of me that speak very loudly and know how to get what they want. And there's parts of me that are much more timid and speak in more indirect ways. Okay. And they're the ones that need stillness and attention, and they are much less sure of themselves. So that's the younger part that needs to hear, in a sense. And if you're talking to a child self, if you go in for that kind of framework, right? Mm-hmm. I am who you become, and that's a good thing, you know?
Yeah, I have a friend whose dad, a musician, taught him to say, I got this. And so that's the only thing he's ever said to himself. I got this. I got this. And if it's a team, he tells the crew, we got this. And he said it's just worked. And it was put in his brain at such a young age. He just believes it. So he's never needed to do if he wanted it. Now he said he has issues with clarity and knowing what he wants. But once he knows what he wants, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably, I guess we want to just thank you. I don't know if thank you is enough.
So much.
Yeah, like we really appreciate who you are and what you put out into the world. And you're so down to earth. For our listeners, his bio reads like, wow. And he's just so down to earth, but also just the depth of your talent and expertise. It's nice to be able to be connected with you in this way. Like all of us, Daniel's also an educator and a teaching artist and a healer and a writer and a performer. I mean, it's nice to welcome a kindred into the space. And I think we're going to stay committed to inviting kindreds to have conversations with. So we appreciate you here on the Lyrical Meditation Cypher.
Well, I appreciate the appreciation, and it's very, very mutual. You guys are all remarkable, and it's a beautiful space to step into. And yeah, like you said about hip hop being a craft, I mean, I just got to say, not only is it a craft, it's a damn miracle.
Yeah.
If you think about how recently it emerged and what it emerged out of, almost from thin air. Obviously not from thin air. Obviously it's got deep roots historically and culturally and all of that kind of stuff. But the alchemy of that just coalescing in the 70s and 80s, and by the early 90s, just the innovations. I don't think there's a bigger step forward for the English language since, I don't know, Shakespeare,
right?
Byron, I don't know. Like it's transformed the way people think and speak.
Mm-hmm.
And the practitioners of it at the highest level are just miracle workers to me, you know? And what you guys are doing in keeping the spirit of it alive. And in particular, as women doing that. I mean, that doesn't go against the grain 100%, but it certainly goes against the current, you know? And brilliant and very needed.
Thank you so much.
So you're welcome.
Thank you so much for being here, Daniel. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your vulnerability, your rhymes, the conversation you brought. I feel like we all learned a lot today, and I definitely know that our listeners are going to get a lot out of this.
And our listeners are going to get a lot out of listening on a regular and consistent basis. You can follow the Lyrical Meditation Cypher podcast on all platforms. You can check us out on YouTube if you want. We don't have the visual, but you can look at the beautiful faces of my lovely co-hosts all you want, created by courtesy of Emor, my Nairobi connection. And we breathe, we spit, and we vibe. And we're doing it every week for you. We have half of our season over, and then we'll start up again. And look out for the LMC podcast and keep your ears open for the LMC Meditation Mixtape that will feature your hosts who are here today, myself, Takia, Alexandra, and Sancho Brown. Daniel Maté, once again, we thank you. To find Daniel, you can go to his website, danielmate.com. Maté is spelled M-A-T-E.
There's also walkwithdaniel.com, which is the mental chiropractic side of things.
Thank you for adding that. Walkwithdaniel.com. And maybe we might have to dig deeper into this mental chiropractic conversation and just talk about that one time. And yeah, so thank you. And keep listening, y'all. We thank you for your support.
Peace and love.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.
Thank you to Asha for being the best podcast platform partner.